Samurai Nippon. To save Oda Nobunaga's life required only 3 hours.
3 hours. To save Oda Nobunaga's life required only 3 hours. But history did not grant him those 3 hours. June 2nd, Tensho 10, 400 a.m., Kyoto Honnoji Temple. 13,000 blades gathered to kill just one man. What if that man had not died?
But first, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. This helps the algorithm show you more videos perfectly suited to your interests.
Chapter 1. Countdown to Death.
03:30, Tensho 10, June 2nd, 1582, 400 a.m. At this moment, Oda Nobunaga's fate was almost sealed. Location Kyoto, Honnoji Temple. The Sengoku period's strongest warlord now sleeps with only 100 guards. Why was he so defenseless? The answer was simple. The man called Oda Nobunaga never considered, not even for a moment, that he would be betrayed. He was the hegemon controlling about 2/3 of Japan. In modern terms, an annual revenue exceeding 2 trillion yen. On this day, Nobunaga was in high spirits because preparations for the Shikoku conquest were complete, and Shimazu of Kyushu and Hojo of Kanto were only a matter of time. But the gears of fate had already begun to go awry. 400 a.m. East of Kyoto, in Yamashina, 13,000 troops secretly began to move. The commander's name was Akechi Mitsuhide. He was one of Nobunaga's most trusted vassals, and now he was about to become the most dangerous traitor. The enemy is at Honnoji. This single phrase moved Japanese history. 500 a.m. Honnoji was completely surrounded. 13,000 versus 100. Overwhelming military disparity. Nobunaga had no chance of winning. 530 a.m. Battle begins. Nobunaga woke to that sound and immediately realized this meant death. The Shinshokoki records Nobunaga's final moments thus. He defended with bow and spear, then set fire and burned to death. Nobunaga took up his bow and fought himself. But outnumbered, flames engulfed Honnoji. 700 a.m. Oda Nobunaga, age 49. Here, history ends, or so it should have. But what if? What if Nobunaga could have survived those 3 hours? How would history change?
Chapter 2. 3 Survival Scenarios.
330, 700 first, we must consider how could Nobunaga have survived. Historians have faced this question for years, and they've derived 3 survival routes. Route 1, North Gate escape. In fact, there was likely a gap in the Akechi army's siege on Honnoji's north side. Why? The reason is time. Akechi Mitsuhide departed Yamashina at 400 a.m. and surrounded Honnoji by 500 a.m. Creating a perfect siege in just 1 hour was impossible, especially the north side, close to mountains with complex terrain. This area would be thinly defended if Nobunaga had discovered this route within 30 minutes before the fire. By 5:30 a.m., he would have fled to Kyoto's outskirts, heading for Azuchi Castle in Omi. Azuchi Castle had 5,000 troops, sufficient force to counter Mitsuhide. Route 2, Nijo Castle siege that night. Nobunaga's eldest son, Oda Nobutada, was at Nijo Castle. His forces numbered about 500 in actual history. Nobutada died the same day as his father. He fought at Nijo Castle and was defeated. But if Father Nobunaga had fled to Nijo Castle, father and son unite. Forces increased to 600. Nijo Castle is fortified. Its defensive capability as a castle is incomparable to Honnoji, 13,000 towns, versus 600, still desperate numbers. However, buying time becomes possible, because from the Chugoku region, Hashiba Hideyoshi was rushing Hideyoshi's great Chugoku return. This was a miraculous march that occurred even in actual history. Hideyoshi moved 20,000 troops from the Chugoku region to Kyoto in just 10 days. In modern terms, walking from Tokyo to Osaka in 5 days, impossible speed. If Nobunaga held out at Nijo Castle for 3 days, Hideyoshi's reinforcements would arrive, and the tide would turn. Route 3, Lightning Union with Hideyoshi. This is the scenario with the highest possibility of changing history, if Nobunaga escaped. Honnoji headed south and joined Hideyoshi. 20,000 Hideyoshi troops, Nobunaga's remaining forces, exceeding Mitsuhide's 13,000. Moreover, Mitsuhide has no legitimate cause. He's a traitor who killed his lord. Meanwhile, Nobunaga has legitimacy. The daimyo would side with Nobunaga. In other words, Mitsuhide was checkmated. If this third route had been realized, Akechi Mitsuhide's rebellion would have ended in 3 days.
Chapter 3. Fates of Mitsuhide and Hideyoshi's Future.
701,000. So, in a world where Nobunaga survived, what happens next? First, Akechi Mitsuhide's fate changes dramatically. The historical Mitsuhide ended with 3 days of glory. Defeated by Hideyoshi at Yamazaki, killed by peasants while fleeing age 55. An all too abrupt end. But in the IF world, Nobunaga absolutely never forgives traitors. Let's look at his purge list. 1570, Asai Nagamasa, brother-in-law who betrayed Nobunaga. Nobunaga massacred the Asai clan. No mercy even for women and children. 1578, Araki Murashige, vassal who rebelled. Nobunaga executed over 500 of Araki's clan members. This was the man called Oda Nobunaga. If Mitsuhide were captured, his execution method would be beyond imagination: crucifixion, burning at stake, or sawing. The cruelest execution method practiced in the Edo period. Not just Mitsuhide himself. His wife Hiroko, daughter Tama later, Gracia, all clan members would be execution targets, estimated over 5,000 people. In other words, the Akechi clan in the IF world completely annihilated, but ironically, in actual history, Mitsuhide's rebellion failed. Allowing his daughter Tama to survive, Tama later became the wife of Hosokawa Tadaoki, leaving her name in history as Hosokawa Gracia. If Nobunaga had lived, Gracia would not have existed. Historical IFs are sometimes cruel, and Hashiba Hideyoshi. His life also changes completely. The historical Hideyoshi defeated Mitsuhide with the Great Shugoku return. Climbing the stairs to becoming ruler of Japan, from peasant to regent, this was a rare rise in human history. He built Osaka Castle, created a golden tea room, invaded the Korean peninsula. But in the IF world, Hideyoshi returns to being a vassal of the Oda family. Nobunaga is still only 49. He can actively fight for another 20 years. Hideyoshi never gets his chance to seize the realm. His Osaka Castle, golden tea room, Korean invasion all become phantoms. Hideyoshi disappears from history. Textbooks and Tokugawa Ieyasu. He also does not become founder of the Edo shogunate. Ieyasu ends his life as Nobunaga's vassal. In other words, in the IF world, neither Hideyoshi nor Ieyasu could become protagonists of history.
Chapter 4. Nobunaga's Unification of Japan.
1012-30. So, in a world where Nobunaga survived, what happens to Japan? As of June 1582, Nobunaga already controlled about 2/3 of Japan, calculating that territory in koku about 8 million koku, converting to modern corporations annual revenue of 1.2 trillion yen, economic scale comparable to Toyota Motor Corporation. How long would it take for Nobunaga, with this much power, to defeat the remaining enemy? Forces? The answer is 5 years. 4 enemies remain. Chosokabe in Shikoku, Shimazu in Kyushu, Hojo in Kanto, Date in Tohoku. Nobunaga's strategy was simple: divide and conquer. First, end of 1582, Chosokabe Motochika of Shikoku. Chosokabe was a famous general who unified Tosa, present-day Kochi Prefecture. But he couldn't match Nobunaga's material superiority. Nobunaga sends 30,000 troops to Shikoku. Supreme Commander Nobunaga's third son, Oda Nobunaga. In actual history, this Shikoku conquest was cancelled due to the Honnoji incident. But in the IF world, it proceeds as planned. Result: Chosokabe surrenders. Shikoku becomes Oda territory next. 1584, Shimazu Yoshihisa of Kyushu. Shimazu was Kyushu's strongest daimyo. Leading forces feared as Demon Shimazu, but Nobunaga has a trump card: firearms. Nobunaga's firearm holdings estimated $30,000. World's largest scale at the time. Shimazu's firearms, in contrast, mere 2,000. In this era, war is decided by technology, and Nobunaga had the latest technology: Kyushu conquest. Supreme Commander Hashiba Hideyoshi leads 50,000 troops, landing in Kyushu. Result: Shimazu surrenders. Kyushu also becomes Oda territory next. 1585, Hojo Ujimasa of Kanto Odawara Castle was called impregnable. Even Toyotomi Hideyoshi took half a year to capture it, but Nobunaga has more patience than Hideyoshi. His tactic: starvation siege. Wait until the castle's food runs out. This is the most reliable capture method: siege Odawara Castle with 100,000 troops. Supreme Commander Nobunaga himself. 6 months later, Hojo Ujimasa surrenders, Kanto falls into Oda hands, only date Masamune of Tohoku remains. But at this time, Masamune is still young. In 1585, only 18 years old, he was ambitious but also realistic. If Nobunaga conquered even Kanto, a small Tohoku daimyo couldn't stand against him. Masamune surrenders, 1586. Oda Nobunaga achieves unification of Japan. 4 years earlier than Toyotomi. Hideyoshi, 15 years earlier than Tokugawa Ieyasu. This is Nobunaga's unification of Japan.
Chapter 5. Phantom Nobunaga Empire.
1230–1500. But Nobunaga's ambition doesn't end with Japan. His next goal was Karairi conquest of the Chinese mainland. This is not delusion. Historical records exist. In a letter written by missionary Luis Frois in 1582, it states Nobunaga spoke of conquering the Ming Dynasty China, then proceeding to India. In other words, Nobunaga seriously considered world conquest. In actual history, Toyotomi Hideyoshi conducted the Korean invasions. From 1592 to 1598, a 7-year war, the result was a great failure. Japanese forces retreated, Hideyoshi's authority plummeted. Why did it fail? The reason was lack of strategy. Hideyoshi underestimated supply lines. Logistics failed, Japanese forces starved. But what would Nobunaga do? Nobunaga is different from Hideyoshi. He was a man who wouldn't fight unwinnable battles. Nobunaga's strategy would probably be this Phase 1 secure southern Korean peninsula, Phase 2 transform it into a permanent base. Phase 3 establish trade routes. Nobunaga's purpose was likely trade, not conquest. Because Nobunaga was an economics expert who introduced Rakuichi Rakuza, was a policy abolishing checkpoints and taxes, promoting free economy. In modern terms, close to deregulation, the Japan Nobunaga creates would be a trading empire, not a military empire. And as a result, Japan becomes an Eastern empire standing shoulder to shoulder with European powers. So how would Japanese society change thereafter? First, the Edo shogunate doesn't exist. Tokugawa Ieyasu ends his life as Nobunaga's vassal. He never becomes shogun. The Sakoku isolation policy also doesn't exist because Nobunaga's strategy is to gain wealth through trade. The ban on Christianity probably isn't issued. Either Nobunaga was a pragmatist who used Christianity as a tool. He sought to obtain Western technology and knowledge from missionaries. In other words, Nobunaga's Japan is an open international nation, and the Meiji Restoration probably wouldn't have occurred. Why? The Meiji Restoration's purpose was Japan's modernization, a revolution to catch up with the West. But Nobunaga's Japan is already modernized, gaining wealth through trade, introducing Western technology, strengthening military power. In other words, Nobunaga's Japan skips the 260 years of the Edo period, directly becoming a modern nation. How amazing is this? Let's look at the numbers. Historical Japan continued isolation until Perry arrived in 1853. At that time, Japan's technology was said to be 200 years behind the West, but Nobunaga's Japan constantly trades with the West. Technology gap is almost non-existent. In the 19th century, there were 5 world powers. Britain, France, Germany, Russia, America. Nobunaga's Japan would join these 5, occupying a position among 6 great powers. Asia's first great power. This is the Japan Nobunaga creates. Historical IFs are terrifying. The life or death of just one man changes even the world map centuries later. But reality has no what-ifs. Oda Nobunaga died at Honnoji on June 2, 1582, age 49. Just one step away from unifying the realm.
Ending.
1500, 1600. That's why Akechi Mitsuhide's 3 Days of Glory was born. Toyotomi Hideyoshi seized the realm, and Tokugawa Ieyasu opened the Edo shogunate, and a peaceful Edo period of 260 years arrived. History is made by what happened, but by imagining what didn't happen, we can understand history's meaning more deeply. What if Nobunaga had lived? What if Mitsuhide hadn't betrayed? What if Hideyoshi hadn't made it in time? History is an accumulation of countless what-ifs. Next time, Battle of Sekigahara. What if Kobayakawa Hideaki hadn't betrayed? See you then. What historical if would you like to see? What if, at that time, X had done Y? Please tell us in the comments. History teaches us the importance of choices. Like and subscribe for another Japanese history you never knew.
Let's journey through history's possibilities together with Samurai, Nippon. History is a series of choices, and so is your life. See you next time.